All empires claim that their wealth is secure. Every government asserts that the promises they make will last forever. But time and again, history shows that they are wrong. From Rome to France, from the Confederacy to modern Lebanon, people have woken up one day to find that their savings have become worthless, their salaries have lost meaning, and the future has slipped out of their hands. Collapse is not an unexpected event, it is actually a rule. The real question is, when will these systems collapse, and how will you protect yourself then? The belief that something will last forever is the most dangerous financial mistake. When we look at our bank accounts or currencies around the world, we assume they have a solid foundation. However, money is not a real foundation. Money is trust, and trust can vanish in an instant. This is why history is so educational. Every collapse leaves behind lessons, patterns, and traces. If you look carefully, those who survived these disasters are not the ones who trusted the most, but those who were the first to doubt. For example, the Byzantine Empire, the eastern part of Rome, managed to survive for another 1,000 years after the Western Empire fell. At the heart of their economy was a gold coin called the solidus. For centuries, merchants from Europe, the Middle East, and Asia accepted this coin with confidence. But here's something striking. They should have known the disaster that befell the Roman Empire with its silver coin, the denarius. Yet years later, the Byzantines made the same mistake. They reduced the purity of gold and added cheaper alloys. Initially, no one noticed, but eventually, trust was broken. This coin, which was at the center of Mediterranean trade, became just a political story. This situation also disturbed the balance of the Byzantine economy. So what remained? Not paper promises, but real gold or land quietly accumulated by traders who were able to protect their wealth. The first lesson to be drawn from this is, governments are often inclined to dilute money, and when they do, real value always leaves the fake behind. Some collapses happen not due to government intervention, but due to unexpected events. In the 14th century, Europe was hit by its greatest plague, the Black Death. Between 1347 and 1351, half of Europe's population died. Cities were abandoned, villages disappeared, and trade routes were severed. But interestingly, the economic story of the plague is not so simple. When the labor force was halved, the survivors became more valuable. Workers were able to demand higher wages. Suddenly, land and food became more abundant for fewer people. This is similar to what we saw in the recent COVID pandemic. Supply chains were disrupted, governments printed trillions of dollars to keep the economy afloat, and the wealthy bought up assets with more money while the lower income groups were left behind. Those who survived the Black Death were in a position to buy land, homes, and all sorts of goods in a broken world. The same thing happened after COVID. Crises reward those with reserves while punishing those without. The banking collapse in Florence shows us that the idea that the big ones cannot fail is completely wrong. In the 14th century, Florence was the financial center of Europe, home to powerful banking families such as the Bardi and Peruzzi. These families had lent large sums of money to governments. But when King Edward III of England failed to pay back his debts, the banks collapsed. Deposits were lost, trade ceased, and Florence was thrown into chaos. This collapse taught people a hard lesson. Being too big does not mean being safe. As always, banks will protect their own profits. When they collapse, your savings will collapse as well. Therefore, those who survived were not the ones who blindly trusted large institutions. The American Civil War is not only remembered for battles, policies, and the abolition of slavery. It also had a terrible financial war behind it. The North issued paper money called greenbacks. which was not backed by gold. Initially, it seemed like a bold and patriotic decision, but the more money they printed, the more it eroded its value, and people began losing confidence. In the South, the situation was even worse. The Confederacy, facing a shortage of resources, issued graybacks, gray money. In the end, the Confederacy's currency became almost completely worthless, so in the collapse of a country, paper money meant nothing. True value was in gold, land, and things like that. Just like during the French Revolution, when governments lose the people's trust, money becomes meaningless. The 1997 Asian financial crisis reminds us that a country indebted to someone else's currency is in great danger. Several countries in Southeast Asia had borrowed in dollars. When the value of the dollar fell, their debts became unpayable, and their economies collapsed. In this case, the rule was clear: whoever is in debt in foreign currencies will be the most affected by the collapse. All these stories show us one thing: trusting paper money